Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sipping with the Simpkins. I'm your boy Ray, and this is my lovely co-host.
Hi, everyone. It's your girl, Michael.
And so we're doing something a little different. I am the moderator right now. These next 5 episodes or so, get used to hearing my voice. So we're just going to jump right in.
It, haven't you?
We're going to jump right into it.
What do you mean? Moderator or not, they heard plenty of it.
You talk more than I do on here.
Cap.
Shit, y'all gonna have to let us know in the comments. Who talks more? All right, so look, this episode is titled "The Pressure to Have It All," and we'll just jump right in.
That's an interesting topic. The pressure to have it all. Who's putting pressure on anyone to have it all? Where does that pressure come
on ourselves? Honestly, we put pressure on ourselves. The world put pressure on us based on what we see and what success looks like in the eyes of the world. We put pressure on ourselves to meet those expectations. And if you're self-driven, now you got those pressures of yourself. So
yeah, I'd like to.
Get into the
so
first
it's
question.
A self-invoked pressure.
I think so. What do you feel?
And then what is it all? Because it all, to me, can look different from person to person. And I guarantee that it looks very different between you and I.
Okay, so first question. Do you feel like our generation was told we could have it all?
I think that goes back to my initial question. What is it all? Because it all is some level of stability, safety, having that long-term goal to be able to have a job that you can retire from, that has a good pension, insurance. That's what it all looked like.
To our parents.
That's what was instilled in me. That's what it all is. That's all you needed. That's all you had to do. Not all, because that wasn't necessarily always easy, but that's what it all was. I think it all changed once you realize there's a lot more to this. So it all changed over time with just experiences. Yeah, I would just say with experiences.
I think first off, we got to go back to what our parents felt was in our best interest. So obviously, I felt like my parents wanted me to do better than them. My parents wanted me to go further in life than them as far as schooling, accomplishments, way of life, family, like all of those things. And so when my parents say you could have it all, or push us in the direction.
So your parents actually said to you, you can have it all?
No, they never told me you can have it all. It came in different words. So those exact words, you can have it all. No, it never came out that way. But
that's interesting.
It never came out that way. And so I'll be interested to know from the people watching, how did it come out that your parents wanted you to succeed and be better positioned than them and go further in life, education wise, work wise, family life, whatever that looks like for you. But a lot of that was centered around what they felt like success looked like. So yes, my parents wanted me to go further in life than them, and they wanted me to pursue my dreams. You can be whatever you want to be. That's how that came out. Having it all was like, you could be whatever you want to be. Put your mind to it, go for it.
Yeah. So your parents said that. Mine never said that to me. Yeah. Be whatever you want to be. Again, and I've said this in our earlier episodes, like my trajectory was clear cut for me. So it wasn't like I was like the first one who got a college degree. I was the first one who went away to college and stayed on campus. Yes, in our family, but she had the education. So it wasn't like, it was like you go to college to get a degree, to get a good job. It wasn't, you can be whatever. It was in some ways.
Talk pensions, and so that's what that makeup, that's what it looked like. That's what success looked like for your mom, to be able to push you in that direction of being able to go do that.
Yeah, but it also wasn't like, I guess it was, you can be whatever you want to be if you go to school and get a degree. But I don't know. It's interesting that your parents said that to you, and I don't know. It's just those dynamics was just different.
Yeah. What does having it all even mean right now?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Like, what does it all mean? Because it all meant when I went to school to get a good job that would be a career, that had a good pension, had some stability, good insurance. And that was the thing. And that's how I got into, some of it was passion, just because the work that I've always done, I've always had a lot of empathy and care for elderly and disabled. So naturally, public service was just like a good fit for me. And then also those jobs, like state, federal jobs, or I guess I should say government jobs, were those well sought after jobs that were pretty highly competitive. Once people got them, they didn't leave them. And so that was my thing. And that was the path that I wanted. And so that's what it all looked like. When I got into that and was in it for so long, I felt stuck in it. And I realized that this wasn't it all. There was a whole lot more that I didn't see outside of what I had that understanding of it all being, because that's what I was told that I should do. Right. And it all just expanded. There was so much more to it all.
I think it all, when in the 90s, when we were graduating from high school, getting ready to go to college, looks completely different than what it all means right now. And I'll tell you why. It all meant we went to go to college and get an education, primarily to go work for somebody else, right? That's what it all really looked like. We were fortunate enough to see the birth of the internet and entrepreneurs explode. Today, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to college, get a degree, and go work for somebody else. Those days are over with. We need more people today, and people can make, frankly, a heck of a lot more money being an entrepreneur, creating jobs and stimulating the local economy. As I've gotten older and start to realize what it all really means, more
right now,
there's more avenues for entrepreneurs to go learn how to be an entrepreneur than it was even talked about back then.
For sure.
So it's a thing now.
Even though it was evident then too, that the trajectory that we were on, while there was this idea that there's some level of stability and safety in going in the trajectory that at least I was taught. Even then, it was those entrepreneurial people who were most successful and most wealthy. It's not rocket science that the majority of wealthy people then, even now, are people who built businesses and bet on themselves, not making money for other people. That's not different. I just think our understanding of it is different, and our accessibility to it is different because of our experiences. And so I think it's just opened our minds to those possibilities, whereas before it's just not talked about or taught.
And no matter how you look at it, whether you go to school, get a degree, and work for a company, or your entrepreneur self, it's going to take a level of dedication. It's going to take a level of applying yourself, stretching yourself thin, which leads into my next question. Have we ever felt stretched too thin in our relationship? Not individually in the world, but just in our relationship. Have we ever felt stretched too thin?
Stretched too thin financially, stretched too thin
however you process that.
Emotionally, stretched too thin work-wise, or the balance between them. All of those things, or any one of those things, which piece of that?
However it lands with you. I'll say, from my perspective, I felt like, yes, we were stretched thin in times where we didn't have family to lean on when we needed family to lean on. There was a period of time where we were both working. We had a son in daycare, having childcare. I felt at that time we were stretched thin because we didn't have a lot of money or resources to be able to lean on anybody else but us. All we had was us. So for me, we were stretched thin at that time.
For sure.
Because there was only one way to look, and that was we looking at each other and how to figure it out.
Yeah.
And not a lot of resources. But we were out of town too. For those folks who salute to those who rely on family, and family come through for you to watch your kids and do different things for you, because that's what it's about. That's what it's supposed to be about, when it can happen in the right way. But we didn't have that. So I felt like at that time we were stretched thin.
But I also think that has, in some ways, a lot of ways, given us the perspective that we have in terms of relying or reliance on, because like you just said, we had to figure it out. We went without, our lights got shut off when you was at work and I was home picking the baby up from the daycare, and I was sitting in the dark stressing you out. Yes, those were for sure stretched too thin. I didn't call my mom and say our electricity was out when I got home from work, or I got home and it was on and they shut it off. That all being said is that's why it's sometimes when we have, and granted, we could have used some support, some resources. Would it have been different if we were closer to family? What kind of reliance do we want? Because neither one of us was going to ask for money unless we like absolutely had to. There may have been a bill. I think we had some issues with the student loan that came up.
For sure.
And it just like that's when we were stretched way too thin, and we were like, that came up and there was just no more pausing with that. But aside from that, we weren't asking, can you help me pay a bill? And so for that reason, you can figure it out when you got grown people still being reliant or dependent on other people. It's like you go without or you figure it out. And we did both of those things lots of times, and probably even still from time to time, like that sacrifices. Do I really need this, or am I really going to do this, or can I do this? Because we got to balance and shift some other things. So
I think that when I think back to times just before we got our blessing to move to the next level, those were the times that we were stretched thin. So I talk about when we were trying to figure things out when we were younger. I just talked about the whole childcare incident and had to rely on each other. That was one area. All of a sudden, boom, I take a job that for a little bit more money, and it's crazy to look back at what I was getting paid then. But at the time, it was fine, and it helped us get over that hump. And I even look at now where we've come here, our house is still in Ohio, tenant moved out, my car situation, it seems like everything's happening at once.
Yeah.
And I can remember having this feeling before when everything's happening at once and everything worked out. That's why I don't get stressed out about it. I'm like, it'll work out like it always does. But whenever you get to a point where you feel like you're stretched thin, and I ain't gonna say it's the end of the road, but when you feel like all of your resources are maximized and you don't know which direction you're gonna go, that's when the breakthrough happens. And then you move to the next level and you continue to push. But what you can't stop doing is pushing, because if you're going to elevate to go to different levels, these are the emotions that you're going to go through.
I say that from time to time, like that's a really good perspective. And that's why I feel like sometimes I'm the one who may be slowing or delaying our elevation because my energy or my vibration may be operating lower than it should be. I am very responsive and reactive because all I can see is this is all of the things that we have to do, and this is all of the money that's coming out. And like you said, at once. And I had other plans for that, and then like things get a little bit tight for a period, and it's like that shift. And so I do worry about it probably more than you, or maybe more than you say, but I want to operate at a higher vibration so that I'm not so reactive and just go with it. Just know that the money is energy, as they say, and it flows. Like money just comes and goes, and I get it. But like you said, it's the car, it's the house, it's the movie. It's a lot at one time.
What did we sacrifice to get where we are?
I would say everything.
Everything like what?
Everything. I've sacrificed family, like being close to them at times, probably friendships and nurturing those better and making them better. Some of that's more personality than anything, but I would say the travel that I like to do or would like to do. Yeah, over time, I think we've sacrificed a lot intermittently through the years.
I would agree. We have our individual sacrifices, because I feel like I've missed a lot of our son's games coming up because I was working nights and weekends and some holidays and whatnot. And so I knew it was going to be in the beneficial long term, but in the immediate, it was like, man, this sucks. I got to be warming my food up when I get home and everybody's already kicking and having a good time. So those are the personal sacrifices that I feel like I made. But as far as the family sacrifices go, I feel like we've sacrificed for the betterment of our son now ever since, really the whole time. We've always put out so that he can participate in sports and doing different things like a lot of parents do. Okay. So we've sacrificed as a family to help him. And now that he's a young adult, we still continue to help him until he's able to stand on his own too. That's definitely a sacrifice that our parents didn't have to make for us, because once we went off the right state, it was like we wasn't going back home.
I don't think not just didn't have to make, but also I don't know if it was positioned to make either was a part of that, but also just wasn't going to happen because of the mentality of this is what you have to do, whether it was ability or affordability or otherwise. My parents, my mom, you are an adult, do what you have to do. And she did it. So similarly to how we respond to adults and this needing help situation, and everybody needs help. I'm not saying that everybody falls on times where, you need help and everybody should help each other out. I think it gets a little exhausting when you become to help somebody out. And it's like right now, you paid $6,000 to get your car fixed 4 months ago, and now we're looking at another $5,000 or so. Do we have anybody to call? No. So I can't help you out because I always have to be prepared to help myself out so that I'm not in a position to have to rely or ask somebody whom I really don't have to ask. And I've said this many times before. So it's not just that your parents, what we're doing, it's like mine just wasn't going to do it. It just wasn't an option. Additionally, I think it's important if we're able to, because to avoid the very thing that we talked about at the top of this, and that's getting into that mundane or that rut of working for somebody else. And so I don't want him to do that or have to do that or succumb to doing that. However, there is that balance of like, you're a young adult and there does have to be some self-sufficiency at some point and some sacrifices that have to be made.
Okay, that's fair. What season felt the most overwhelming?
I would say very much so the early stages. We had a good, probably the first, honestly, 15 years was rough for us. Like it's surprising, like financially, emotionally, like everything that could have and should have pulled us apart and everything that could have come in between that happened, I would say. And I mean everything. So I would say after the first 15, there was still some few years that there was some instability and discomfort and some figuring it out between us. But I would say, yeah.
And that's just for those listening. People go through things. And anything worth having is, one, going to come with sacrifice. Two, is going to come with some ups and downs. So you got to work through those things and think about the bigger picture of what you want to see happen for your family, for your relationship, for you personally, long term, and let that be your yellow brick road, so to speak, and your North Star.
Everything ain't worth doing that for, though. There's some things
for them to decide.
Because there's really some things that should have broken us and could have broken us. And I don't know that it was necessarily like, I think, again, our solid was our son. It's like we were going to raise him in a 2-parent household. If he was not the glue at that time, there were things that certainly was just like non-negotiable.
Could have been catastrophic.
Yes, non-negotiables probably for both of us. Yeah.
No doubt. So what did we learn about prioritizing? Because in order to get out of those situations or those feelings of being overwhelmed and the season of sacrifice and just before you get blessings, what do we learn about prioritizing?
I think because we didn't prioritize each other, we realized that was important. And prioritizing what is not only important to your partner, but like making that a priority for you too. So there's some things that, aren't really that may be a priority for you that I might be less interested in. I know that I might have to prioritize those things from time to time because it's important to you. So it requires some reshifting, some refocusing, some rethinking about what is a priority, or maybe not what, but the why. And so it's because it's a priority for you, I have to make it a priority sometimes.
What did we stop chasing that brought us peace? And I'll go first. For me, and again, I feel like I've stopped chasing selfish ideas because it's for the betterment, is that word again, of our entire family.
That word.
I think when you're in a marriage and folks are in a relationship and then you got children and stuff like that, there's a certain level of selfishness that you have, at least I had. I knew that I needed to make myself a decent career. I knew that I had to put in the work at work in order for us as a family to benefit. So selfishly, I took that. And I think at times I lost the sense of our relationship in that focus of putting work first and not really prioritizing family first. That was a sacrifice, wrong or indifferent.
And not just family. I don't mean to cut you off, but you're saying family, but for me, it was me, like prioritizing me specifically. No, family, when I think of family, it's me, you, and our son. I think
it's okay.
Yeah, let's just
okay.
I will
leave you out. You. Okay.
And you don't have to acknowledge that. I'm not.
No, I acknowledge that because when I say family, I'm saying you and Michael. The same. I think my level of focus at work really put me outside of being in tune where both you and Michael were at in life, period. And so I've learned that not focusing and being selfish will help bring that piece of, that's why I don't get sidetracked or get emotional about situations that we go through, because I'm like, you know what, it'll work out. But I try to make sure that I'm not thinking about situations selfishly and I'm thinking about you or him, and I think that at least helps me remain peaceful. That's where some of my peace lies.
Good. I'm glad you got peace.
Yeah.
So that does it for another episode of Sipping with the Simpkins. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. Tell us what's happening in your family, what you may have learned from this conversation. Appreciate the feedback. Sorry to cut it short, guys, but sister gotta work.
Yeah. Talk later. Peace.
I don't got time. I was supposed to go 4 minutes ago, bro. You see what time it is?
Yep.
How many more questions did you have? Yeah, you gotta limit your questions to like